It's exactly 7 minutes after 8 a.m. on Good Morning Uganda. Thank you for joining us on this agenda segment where we talk about, topics of national importance. Now, it does not matter who we're talking to, how we're talking about it. It's of great importance to any Ugandan like you and me. I'm Philomena Masco. It is the 31st of May 2022, the very last day of this month. And I hope you've had quite a great one. If you haven't, well, there is some future. We have moments coming in. We still have quite some time to the end of 2022. So it's not good for you to lose hope for now. Well, like we promised you at the start of Good Morning Uganda as early as 6:30 a.m., we told you we're having a special guest this morning. And let me tell you something, the man that I have with me in studio, I'm pretty sure you've seen him somewhere, you know him, probably you cannot really figure out where you've seen him, but this morning you'll be knowing much about him. And I am very honored to have Mr. Musime Edwin with me in studio. Good morning.
Oh my goodness, I wish there was another word beyond good morning. It just feels so... It's so refreshing. It's such a blessing to be back for me where it all started. All my nostalgic feelings back. It's euphoric. It's great to be here.
I'll tell you, when you walked in, everybody, it looked like you were walking into a family. Everybody's like, yeah, I know you. Yeah, so you're back at home, I could say.
No, I feel, after my 21-year journey of broadcasting, getting back in here to an institution that I was proud to be part of in the inception of what we'd call the evolution of broadcasting in Uganda, and serving diligently for 12 years under the same institution, and coming back now after my wrapping up of my broadcasting career, it just feels special. Oh, wow. It just feels special. It just feels special.
Well, I need to also say you're very smart. The descriptions I've had out there before even saying he's one of the smartest men we know. So
glory to God.
Exactly.
Glory to God.
It's a brand, and it's a brand for Good Morning Uganda. You really started it, and we are here. Look at us. Well, it's very, very great to have you pay us a visit once again.
Oh,
this
definitely,
morning.
most definitely.
Oh, well, so I'm pretty sure, like I said, I know you. There are people who know you, but there are people who don't know you. So maybe just to head straight into it. Who is Edwin Musime?
Well, Edwin Musime 2 weeks ago stepped down from his 21-year broadcasting career that all began in Nakasero at UTV then. 2001, I can evidently remember that beautiful day, but we'll get to that a little bit later. I am currently the CEO and chairman, Olim Group Africa. It's a firm and an organization that is into construction, interior designing. We have a couple of showrooms manufacturing furniture and interior decor. We run Olim Media. I run you're talking about fashion. I also run a fashion label, Olim Fashion.
Spot on.
And then, of course, I'm also the President and Founder Chamber for Young Entrepreneurs Uganda, and then now also President Smart Green Cities Initiatives Africa. So I'm heavily now entrenched in the executive roles of how we can transform Africa, East Africa, and Uganda at large. And I am a preacher. Aside from doing business and making the money and transforming society, I'm also the lead pastor at Dwell Ministries. So I have to wear those many hats, to both be a production guy in my country, but also impact and change lives. So in a nutshell, that's who Edwin Musime is. So 2 weeks ago is when I made the decision to step down from broadcasting. And again, back to the memory of 2001, I remember vividly. But strangely, I keep telling young people, and if there's any young person watching right now, and any parent that is watching right now for that matter, it's very important that from earlier on, you actually discover the special gift your child has and encourage them on. I've got an 11-year-old daughter. Who already right now is going into high school. He's going to do 4 years here and will go to London School of Architecture because she already wants to do interior designing. She wants to be a broadcaster. She wants to follow through my steps. Not because I forced her, but because she's watched closely what I do and she admires it. She loves it. She loves the impact. So it's very important for parents to help their children, support the children, support what they see in their children. But also for the young people, we just have guys who have just graduated. We have guys who are in high school. I think for me, my story of broadcasting started way back in Nagalama.
Oh,
Short
St.
story
Joseph's.
was that, yes, St. Joseph's.
I'm an old girl.
Oh, is
yes,
it?
I am an old girl of
Hey.
St. Joseph's.
Yeah, so this is what happened in my HAC. So we had a boring assembly, which was Tuesday. It was the academic assembly. And innovatively, what I decided to innovate was called NBC,
Yes.
Nagalama Broadcasting Corporation. So what I would do, I was a one-man team. I would research and gather news.
Okay.
I had never studied mass communication. I would research, gather news, and then I asked the headmaster that I should present a 10 minutes bulletin
Yes.
every Tuesday. And it was filled with comedy, features, and people would laugh. But you're talking about addressing 800 kids on an assembly with no microphone.
Yes.
And little did I know that then I was already chiseling and preparing myself for the broadcasting industry. Now, of course, from all level, I had already known I wanted to be a media guy. In primary, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yes.
But then in high school, I felt like broadcasting was the thing for me because I wanted to play a part in being that voice of change in my time. So by the time I left Nagalama, my application, of course, was for mass communication. Thankfully to God, I made the mark towards a university and I got mass communication. Now, the thing about it is that as soon as I entered a vacation, I didn't wait to get into university to graduate and start looking for a job. I remember, I don't know whether this lady is still alive. Oh, goodness. Miss Irene Ziksoka. She was an amazing, tough woman. So I remember 2001, I walked up to, I didn't even have transport.
Oh.
I walked up to Nakasero.
It already starts with no transport.
Yeah, I walked up to Nakasero, and she had a tough secretary as well. So I walk over there, and then I asked them, I would like to see the manager. Like, do you have an appointment? I said, no, I don't have an appointment, but I really would like to see the manager. Why do you want to see her? So while I'm still talking to the secretary, Miss Irene Ziksoka walks in. She's like, young man, how can we help you? Now I had to pretend that I know her. So I go like, and also I tell people you've got to be so strategic. So
Yes.
I tell her, oh, good to meet you. I've heard quite a lot. I had not heard anything about her.
Yes.
I've heard quite a lot about you, and the work that UTV is doing right now, frankly speaking, it's a journey I want to be part of. It's exciting, and this is this little tiny boy trying to address Irene, and Irene, I think, is baffled, and she's like, come into my office, have a seat.
Yes.
What would you want to do? And I was like, I've been keenly studying the journey of broadcasting from its inception in the 50s. And I feel like UTV, being the national broadcaster, has an opportunity to just be that game changer, lead player, and all that. I mentioned all these nice things I had rehearsed, and she was blown away. So the following day, she said, I can come in for a screen test. Now, I don't know, I just met my good friend, Bwana Ruatoro, Ndugu Ruatoro. I don't know whether he was on duty that day, but I remember they called me in for a screen test the following day. And the whole night, I was rehearsing.
And this is at UTV,
UTV, yeah.
yes.
So I was going to prepare for duty announcing. So I went and prepared. Then I had met Bina Baby, Robina Malera briefly, and I asked her, how do they do this? Because she had been in it for long.
Yes.
So then I remember I had one black trouser that had a zip I had to just maneuver in, you know. And I had 3 jackets. I went to Wino and bought my 3 coats. I think I bought them at 20,000 each. Brown, no, it was gray, red, and black.
Yes.
And then I would just play with them with the different shirts. And even then, people used to say, that guy is so smart. Little did they know I was just trying to just, you know.
That was the road you were taking right from back
So
then.
I do the screen test, and I was anxious. And I asked the guy that was on the camera, I don't even remember who it was, how was it? No, you did well.
Yes.
So they told me I can come back in 3 weeks' time. 3 days later.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always
Because
been
you weren't
like
expecting 3 weeks.
3 days later, I walk back to Nakasero, and I meet Irene. She's like, young man, we say 3 weeks later. I'm like, yeah, I just wanted to come by. I could just hang around and learn a thing or two.
Yes.
I think she'd had it. She called, I don't remember who she called. She's like, you know what, get this young man on the roster. Tomorrow come start working. I was like, yeah, keep in mind, now to the young people watching, keep in mind, we have not discussed salary. I was not even interested in salary at that point in time. For me, and I was, for the best part of my broadcasting in UTV and UBC, I always used to joke with my colleagues and say that I feel like for the opportunity I have, I should be the one paying this
Yes.
broadcasting station
You didn't
for
really
this
expect
opportunity.
any, yes.
So I remember the following day I had my first, I borrowed, I didn't have a phone. So I borrowed my auntie's phone and made sure I text everybody that I know. Things have changed. You guys now don't take it as a big deal. For me, I mean, it was everything.
Yes.
I had to text everybody, hey, I'm going to be on television. My relatives are going to be on television. It was exciting. And then things have changed again. I look at today's broadcasting hosts and anchors. Some are doing well.
Yes.
Others just dress anyhow. For us at that time, it was golden to be on television.
Smartness was very key.
It was golden.
Yes.
It was, I think for us, it was the true essence of what the birthplace of celebritydom is.
Yes.
So it was held secret. So I remember, and then I started with the duty announcing. Up next will be the cartoons. Pingu, I hope you do enjoy that. And remember, television then was starting at 6 p.m.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So we'd prepare all day long, and 6 p.m. And remember, it would shut out, would wait until, I think it would shut out shortly before midnight, before we got the blue buzz.
Yes.
And then off.
That was
and
it.
then the beauty about it for us is that it was the only broadcasting station.
So you had all the audiences on you. You were monopolizing.
Who didn't
the
watch
audience.
me? Everybody had to watch me. I mean, it was the golden era of television.
Well, you infiltrated UTV just like that. Very ambitious young man. And now, how long were you here? How many years did you give service to UTV?
So, interesting. UTV then, remember, like I said, we were not on a necessarily attractive salary. I remember we were getting a bit of an allowance of about 25K.
Yeah, 25,000.
Not dollars, not pounds.
25,000 Ugandan shillings.
And
But then I know it had a lot of value.
2001, it was a bit, but it was still, 12.
I mean, 25.
But then for me, the focus wasn't even the 25,000.
Yes.
But hey, the interesting story I remember about the 25,000 even then was, remember, you had to walk, before they started putting the money on our accounts, there was a time we used to walk from UTV Nakasero, we had to come to Nile Avenue here.
Okay.
And you didn't have the border money or whatever, so you had to walk. And then by the time you get here, it was, I think, Florence Otieno who was the finance manager. And you get there and the line, the queue is long, and by the time you get there, they say tomorrow.
Yes.
And you have to go back. But it's so interesting that at that time, part of the team I was working with, we were more enthused about serving. We were more enthused about serving the country. It wasn't, I never a single day, I never was frustrated at all.
Yes.
So I remember that time then, of course, UTV then, we moved later on from UTV to Nile Avenue. Again, the transition was more exciting for us. There was promises and hope of improvement of this and that and changes and all that. And one of the things I remember vividly was I and the late Bale Francis used to have our interesting competition.
Yes.
We always deliberately, of course there were people at times who would be earlier, but we consistently were almost some of the first guys who had to be at UTV before it became UBC.
Yes.
So even before I started the morning show, usually I would make sure I'm as early as possible into the station, and then I would leave quite late.
Yes.
So we went through that. Then the journey of transitioning into UBC comes. At that point in time, of course, other TV stations had begun to come in. Sanyu TV at that time, but of course, Sanyu TV then wrapped up business. WBS, of course, has also since then wrapped up business. Now the competition was beginning to grow. It was no longer the blue ocean kind of industry where we were the monopolies. Now there was some competition coming in. And then I became a producer. And then I started a show, Christian Voice, that it was pretty much a show rotating around religious issues, and I would host reverends and pastors and fathers. For the longest time I did that, and I was also still the duty announcer. But then gradually, and people who are watching need to understand that it's very important to always be strategic in life, because somewhat in life, the only constant thing in life is things like life and death. Death shall happen to all of us.
Absolutely.
You know? Things like time is consistent, but everything around, all external factors change. Technology is moving at a very fast pace.
Yes.
So very quickly, duty announcing. Now, remember, had I remained a duty announcer, Keep in mind at this point in time, if I had not invented a TV show, Christian Voice, I'd be relevant. I'd be relevant.
Yes.
So fortunately for me at that time, when the competition began to grow, I think then we evolved from duty announcing to writing. I don't know what were we calling it then. The duty roster was now written on the screen.
Yes.
It meant the duty announcer has no more job. So they were just the graphics guys, the guys who were behind the scenes in production, the Kabito team and all that, literally almost threw me out of work. I'm joking. So they started just putting up the graphics of what's coming up next and all that kind of thing. But I had already switched to Christian Voice.
Yes. So
I did Christian Voice for about 6 years. And then while doing Christian Voice, I remember one of the things I always loved to do, I was always an agile innovator. I liked to dream. I liked to improvise, and So I remember one day I took a trip to the US.
Yes.
Now, what I didn't also mention is young people also take note of this, that the fact that 25,000 shillings wasn't an issue, there were other grand benefits from it. Oh, okay, that was a picture of me with Peter Sebatimba. Now, I'll mention something about Peter Sebatimba. Now, this guy was my role model for a long time.
Yes.
So when I was at UTV, I started treating my hair.
Yes.
Now, of course, some people say, that guy is gay. No, I wasn't gay. I just actually loved the way he put on his suits. I loved his hair.
Is very evident. The ties.
It's come a long way. It's come a long way. So he used to treat his hair. And I began, there you go. So I used to treat my hair because I felt like because I was looking for all the ways I can look
trends, yes.
kind of thing. Then parents would go like, but Edwin, our sons are their role model, they're your mentees.
Yes.
They're looking now they're going to start treating their hair. I didn't care. I just wanted to look dope. But after a while, I remember I just felt like, hang on a minute. Why do I treat my hair?
Yes.
So I went for the first time I went for a natural haircut, I was like, I should leave my hair natural.
Yes.
So those are some of the first people that got me an opportunity to go to the United States of America.
Okay.
You can see my hair was still treated then. I don't know where this guy's getting these pictures from. Goodness me. So I might have been earning 25K, but I got my first opportunity to travel to the United States of America through the TV station.
Yes.
And what I was doing. I got my very first opportunity to travel to England. Now, what's the value in that? Look back at 21 years. That will be about 18 years of travel history. That today, I don't have a problem getting a US visa. I don't have a problem getting a UK visa. But remember, it was from the 25K. So if you fail to see, I always talk about the 7 types of capital: physical capital, social capital, intellectual capital, financial capital, emotional capital, and all that. But here we're talking about social capital. Every person who has an opportunity to be behind the cameras need to understand that the benefits of being on television are beyond just a salary.
Yes.
It's very important because King Solomon in the Proverbs mentions something categorical and says that a good name is better than riches. Today I've run into people who used to see me at UTV or UBC. He may not remember my name, but he will say the smart guy on TV.
Yes, that is how they will actually identify you. Well, we're still talking about the 21 years of broadcasting of Edwin Musime. You've seen him, you know him. I'm pretty sure you've seen him somewhere. Now, 21 years of broadcasting, Edwin, honestly, I won't lie, in any profession, I mean, it's quite tough. There are people who will pull out here and there. But also for you as a person who has stuck it out 21 years, I'm pretty sure you have seen quite a lot, especially in this industry. Now, you've seen it evolve all the way from, doing the duty announcement. Look at us. I don't even think we do duty announcements anymore. You can just, it's not anywhere. It's not even the graphics guy's responsibility anymore. Yeah. But from your perspective, how would you rate the evolution? How are we doing, especially when it comes to the broadcast media here in Uganda?
I think what happens is that I have been an ardent student of broadcasting at large, but as well as also the study of industrialization and the evolution of mankind and how economies have grown. It dates all back in the 1950s. 1950s are regarded as the golden age of television. That's where we saw the changes and transformations with the likes of the NBCs. At that time, in the 1940s, you had close to, actually, when you look at America, by the time they got into the 50s, you were talking about 95% television ownership and penetration. Whereas in Uganda, there's an argument in Uganda over at what point in time did we get into colored TV? There's an argument that President Milton Obote then had already started the process before Idi Amin brought in. Some schools of thought say it was Idi Amin, but I remember vividly, I wasn't there, but I remember in the 1960s, of course, under the British rule, television was then to be introduced in about 1962, about there.
Yes.
So television, of course, people like me were not born then, but this is history then I had to gather. Then 1963, what revolution, that's what, where are these guys getting these pictures?
Wait, this is home. This is home. UBC has an
let me tell you something about this story. This picture. So we were told the president was coming to visit UTV. That was UTV.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Some of us could not sleep. As a young man, it was the first time I was ever going to meet the president.
The excitement was
remember I told you about the one black trouser?
Yes.
That day I went to a window in the afternoon, looked for a suit. You could see that time. It wasn't even a fitting suit. I had to look for the best suit I could come across in a window.
Yes.
I polished my shoes so diligently that morning, and we walked in there. It was such a moment. Oh, I remember this lady. I don't know where she is. That's Julie at the back there. Yes. Oh, that was for me. I think this would have been a moment that also inspired me in a certain way. For the head of state coming into the studios and encouraging us on as young people.
Did you have the fear, knowing that the president of Uganda is coming?
Do you know what happened that day?
The nerves must have been up there.
I had the nerves, but also I built a certain confidence. If you notice in that picture, I made some error that the ADC later came and warned me about.
Oh,
so I was so overconfident. Do you notice I was pocketing?
Yes, you were.
That nearly got me into trouble. So afterwards, the ADC, the security guy kept saying, never pocket while you're before the president. It was me just trying to build some confidence around the guy, because it was
just
so
a young man, very excited.
So I remember he asked me,
so
young man, who are you? And I introduced myself. Where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Kabale and all that. Good job. Keep on, young people. We like to see you grow and work in such institutions and make a difference and all that. I think that day was quite inspiring for me in many ways.
Yes.
So where were we? So the history of television. Now, of course, when we got into it is said that after the 60s, of course, President Obote started the process of ensuring that we would get television switched to colored, because that time it was black and white. Then I'm told history indicates it's about the 1972, I think, Idi Amin had gone to visit Zanzibar. It's a story being told famously. Then when he went there, he found that television was colored. Another school of thought says that Idi Amin had gone to German. So I don't know
wherever he went, that's wherever he went, discovery.
What we remember, what we're told frantically, is that he realized that, hang on a minute, why is television there colored and back home is black and white? And what's so interesting about the presidency of Idi Amin, I'm told that he so badly wanted us to have colored TV, that history books indicate that he paid in cash. That apparently he chartered a plane for engineers to actually go. It was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be a deal negotiated with the British, all the Germans. The Germans were more lenient in their structures and all that, and then the British, whereas they were our colonialists, were a little bit stringent in their measures. I think it was German that would supply us the technology.
Yes.
And apparently he chartered a plane for engineers and paid in cash, and boom, voila, we had colored TV. Fast forward anyway, the early 2000s, where I get to join the space of television. It was still fairly young.
Yes.
And at that time, I remember, before I joined television, in the 90s, I was born in 82. In the 90s, it was a golden opportunity to watch TV. At that time, we had things like Economies, Viva Wo.
Yes.
If you have not yet washed utensils, plates and cups, no.
You've not done your fair share of chores.
Television at that time played a role of incentivizing every child in our home to work extra hard and quick with their duties, because television was going to start at 6 p.m. So you had to quickly fetch water, wash clothes, do all the chores, and make sure food wasn't the issue. I didn't care about if I had not eaten. If 6 o'clock came, you knew television was going to start. And it was, and at that time, I mean, the signals, of course, at that point in time, you better pray that the signal
is
was
actually
okay.
working in your favor.
So actually, some of us would start trying to tune the signal before 6 p.m. So we even mastered the angle by which the antenna should be facing before we went into the digital age. So it was fascinating, and then of course thereby the 2001 I get my opportunity at debuting into television. And for me, like I said, after knowing all this history of television, now to know that I was going to play a part in this amazing industry, oh goodness, it was such an opportunity of a lifetime. It was such an opportunity. So we started off, and the journey, I would say, was that in Uganda, again, like I said, we were the big kings. We were the big kings. You were either watching UTV or nothing. So fast forward, of course, the transition comes in, we become UBC, and the rebrand comes in. But then competition has come in, and it's trying to spoil our game. And of course, now there's the competition for the remote. I
can say even the enthusiasm, you see, you did talk about how enthusiastic you are about TV. Right now, I'll tell you that the people who are joining the industry, really the enthusiasm is a little bit, you know, it's not as much as I can say you.
But also, I think the broadcasting industry in Uganda, when you compare the three East or the four, okay, for matters of our discussion here, I'll compare the three East African economies. That the growth of the industry, of any industry, has been relative, dependent on how the economy is performing. For instance, look at Kenya. Kenya with a GDP of 97 point something billion US dollars. Some stats indicate they're into the 100 billion US dollars as GDP. Their television or broadcasting industry is doing far better when you look at the remunerations and how much Kenyans are paid on television. We had some of our great talents here move to Kenya, Joy, Doreen Bira, and I think one or two other guys. And the payments there are better. And then also the Kenyan broadcasting industry, they take the industry so seriously, even at management level. And I'm not saying in Uganda it's not taken seriously, but slightly in Kenya more seriously. It's a cutting edge competition. When you look at the likes of the Citizens and Nation, the competition is up there. When you look at wardrobes, things that they take seriously. Now, when you trace back the origin of television, the evolution and growth and innovation, when you go to, for instance, CNN or Al Jazeera or the BBC, the standards are high. Extremely high. Now, Kenya tries to follow that model by virtue, of course, their economy is doing well. And when you look at the market cap of sponsorship and partnerships these TV channels have in Kenya, it's massive. It's massive when you look at the advertising budgets of companies in Kenya, because the economy is so big. Now, when you cross over to Tanzania, Tanzania doubles our economy by about 67 billion US dollars. Tanzanians are a little bit conservative by nature. That's why, despite a big economy, their television is still a little bit conservative. They've not really evolved so much traditional Swahili, and it's really not grown too fast. And I also attribute that to every time you have an economy that does not have particular professionals that take the industry so seriously, and there's strong exchange programs. The time I was here, there used to be those exchange programs with Deutsche Welle and a number of other channels and all that. So I think in Tanzania, they didn't take that element quite very seriously. Now, Rwanda has a GDP of about 10.2 billion US dollars. By far we dwarf them, because we are 37, we're going into 40 billion. But Rwanda, again, their television industry, and we've done content supply with Tanzania, with Rwanda, so I know all these markets. I've done some content supply with Ghana. I know these markets. Now, Uganda, let's go back to Uganda, come back here to Uganda. Some of the stations that came in at that time have closed. Why? Sanyu, WBS all shut down. Others have come up. In Kenya, when you look at their history, most of the broadcasting stations that were then, even KBC, I've had a chance to visit KBC. Monica, I forget her other name. She used to be the programs director here, and I once visited KBC while she was also the manager there. KBC, again, there's huge investments from the government into KBC. I don't know at the moment how much the government of Uganda invests in UBC,
Yes.
but I feel like institutions like a broadcasting industry need to be taken so seriously, and investment in such an industry needs to be intentional. Because at the end of the day, it is the voice of the nation. It is the major communication platform to the masses.
Yes.
So a lot of changes have happened. Of course, significant was the shift from analog to the digital terrestrial era.
Yes.
Where now we became digitalized. Of course, with the digitalization came more competition. What was once a blue ocean space, blue ocean being there's less competition, now became a red ocean space. A red ocean space is where you have murky, dirty, bloody waters. The competition is stiff.
Yes.
And it meant that broadcasting industries now needed to innovate, evolve, improve, get better. I'll give an example. Today, if you walked into the BBC studios and you were given an opportunity, you just gave me an example that these days talent comes in and they're like, yeah, they take it for granted.
Yes.
But if they told you today, you're not going to work at BBC, but just go visit BBC, what would be your feeling?
Oh, it would be a totally different.
Just the standard operating
Yes.
procedures of
Yes.
walking through the BBC. I've had a chance to visit the BBC, and trust me, I think earlier years, that's what also even encouraged me the more
Yes.
about the industry. And my thinking then was that we're going to follow suit and someday grow and become better. And there have been steps when you look at UBC,
Yes.
infrastructure-wise. Then the transition, we had Mr. Edward Mugasa, the previous MDs, Paul Shika came in. Now I know there's new management. Of course, my great friend, Mr. Maurice Mugisha.
Yes.
You can see there's been great efforts. When you look at the infrastructure, I would say by far, UBC today stands with the best infrastructure in as far as television stations are concerned in Uganda.
Yes.
But it's not enough to have the good infrastructure. It's also great to have great strategic thinkers that are going to position the brand and the station to where it needs to be. You're talking about stations in the UK and in the US are talking about, there's some equipment I'm going to try to go and purchase at a good deal. This is the guy who's selling me the equipment for my production house is saying this is equipment that gives you a picture for 2024. We are in 2022. These guys are innovating for 2024. So a lot has changed. The question is, have we changed with the times? Have we evolved with the times?
Well, we are still with Edwin Musime. 21 years of broadcasting is what we are trying to draw our conversation towards. Evolution of broadcasting media. And I mean, how does the future stand for us as Uganda, especially in the broadcasting industry? We'll go for a short break. When we get back, it is more conversation with me, Philomena, and Edwin Musime. Good morning.
When we're together, the vibe is pretty alright. Our taste is pretty awesome. We are Uganda's #1 fruity refreshment. Enjoy Mirinda Fruity, Uganda's #1 fruity refreshment.
Great entertainment,
Sports, the local content, telenovela, the movies. There is something for everybody. Go TV, this is where great stories live.
Get the best entertainment for any budget. With GoTV, you will have great entertainment for as little as 13,000 Ugandan shillings per month. GoTV, great stories, Zidiwano. GoTV Uganda, love it.
Jennifer, Jugila, Wewagamba, I don't have waka. You passed the ice through me about my waka. Now come and see for yourself, see my waka that I got with Momo Nyabo. Jangola waka, look at you waka, see my waka.
Show them Waka with MTN Momo Nyabo. Simply Deposit 20K or more on your mobile money for a chance to win 3 Toyota Succeeds and money to 2,000 lucky winners every week. We're giving away 24 cars and over 2 billion shillings of mobile money.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, welcome back from that short break, and of course the conversation continues right here on UBC. And well, I am with Edwin Musime, and we are talking about his 21 years in the broadcasting industry. We've been through how he got into it. I will tell you, it was quite an interesting story over there that he shared with us. And of course, he's given us his fair share of opinion, especially when it comes to the evolution. Now, all these you can catch us on our YouTube because we are streaming live, so follow up. The story is very, very catchy. Even I am quite intrigued. Well, Edwin, we will have to talk about the future of broadcasting.
Yeah.
I mean, we've made comparisons with several of these other countries, our neighbors, and I would love to know, as Uganda, in your opinion, do you think we have invested a very how would I say, have we grounded ourselves for a very strong future, especially when it comes to the broadcast industry, or are we still standing on a shaky future, even now where we are standing currently? Do you think the future is quite bright for us, or we still have a lot of work to put into it?
Hindsight to this, hindsight. So the show we're on, actually historically in Uganda, it would be in the books of records that I started the idea of morning shows.
Yes, he did.
In the country. So a pat on the back for me. So the reason I'm going to bring this up is to help us understand the role of innovation, ideating and innovation.
Yes.
So it was one of those years I traveled on a holiday to the United States of America. So while there, I've always been a television enthusiast, and I just always wanted to, I always just flick through channels to see what TV channels are doing. So that morning, for the next 3 days, I was endowed with an amazing show called Good Morning America. And Good Morning America was set up in such a beautiful way. It had a nice coffee set, nice chairs, 2 beautiful ladies and 2 stunning guys, so smart. And I was like, okay.
Yes.
And they were talking about current affairs and discussing the order of business of the day, what is at stake in the nation and what's happening around them. And I was like, hang on a minute. Back home, of course, the competition now had come in, all these other stations had come in, but all the stations in Uganda,
yes,
what they were doing was regurgitating news of the previous night. All the stations were bringing the 9 p.m. bulletin right back in the morning, replayed. Actually, they were not even having a news anchor coming in the morning.
Yes.
They were bringing the replay of the news. That's how far, when we talk of innovation and the future, that therein shows you where the challenge of Africa is.
Yes.
Now, Africa always has the excuse that, oh, you see, the Western world has moved thousands of years ahead of us. Oh, you see, no. And people always challenge me when I compare ourselves to Hong Kong, to Singapore, to China, to Dubai. My comparisons come from a good place. They come from my school of thought of do not invent the wheel if you don't have to.
Yes.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. King Solomon, I like quoting principles from the Bible. Biblically, King Solomon once made a very important fundamental statement in the book of Ecclesiastes. He says, there is nothing new under the sun. That business idea, that innovation,
yes,
that ideation, that process of new production that you want for your company, how you want your station to grow, how you want your business to grow, there is nothing new. These things are written in several books. These things are written in archives of Google. They are everywhere.
Yes.
So it took one young man at that time to travel to America to realize that actually morning shows can be more exciting and engaging.
Yes.
So while on the plane from LA to Kampala or to Entebbe Airport, I had worked on the full concept of Good Morning Uganda. And the moment I came in here, I straight away walked to I think I first met with the programming manager. It was Doreen then. And then we met with Mr. Mugasa. And I said, listen, this is what's going to change the face of morning television. And Good Morning Uganda was born with great support from the management team and the leadership team at that time, which I do encourage for every management team, and
Yes.
I believe the current team is strategic thinking. Strategic thinking dates back to the 16th century with General Sun Tzu, who introduced military and how to approach military with strategy. And when we talk about the future of television, there's going to be a lot of innovation
Yes.
injected in how we manage TV stations and broadcasting stations and programs and content. So once the show began, it meant, of course, the downside, it meant that I usually used to come in at about 6 or 7. It meant that we had to be coming here at 4 a.m.
Yes.
And Mr. Ratoro behind there, I think, is one of the great people we started the show with.
Well, we tell the
And
same
of course-
story.
And of course, the late, oh, may her soul rest in eternal peace, Susan Namasaba. She was an amazing lady. We
Yeah.
started the show with her. She was very passionate. We both, TV hosts of these days, guys, let's bring the vibe
Yes.
back. Let's bring the energy back. I mean, we were earning, at that time then, we were earning 700,000.
Yes.
But we were proud to wake up in the morning. 4 a.m. we all were just making our way to the station, and by 5 we are all in here getting ready to speak to the nation. It was exciting. It was, and I think for me, I'm writing a book which will come. I hope I'll be hosted
Yes,
when
we'll
I release.
actually be
It's
able to
called
talk about it.
Become.
Yes.
Becoming a better version of yourself. This has helped me in my life as an executive presently, that if you're watching right now, if you are the guy behind the camera, if you're the guy behind the control room, if you are the guy that sweeps the UBC compound, do it as best as nobody else can. Be good at what you do. Simply just be good. Let me tell you something. Promotion comes so easy in this life when you're so good.
Yes.
But then you're going to ask, but nobody cares. They don't appreciate us. The management doesn't care. No, you are not doing it for the management. You're doing it for the industry. You're doing it. I always tell people,
Yes.
employment is the only college in the world that pays you to learn. Now, as President Chamber for Young Entrepreneurs, under my company, Olim Group, we have what we call Olim Ocean, which is a training company. And I usually train different companies. And I tell them, listen, entrepreneurship doesn't start when you're owning your own business. Now in the 21st century, we will have what we call entrepreneur innovation, entrepreneur management, entrepreneur leadership. You are an MD of UBC. You are a production manager at UBC. You've got to be entrepreneur. Now, let's look at what the challenges facing the industry today as we look at the future.
Yes.
You are in a whirlwind of digital media, the digitalization of things, the
New
internet
media.
of things, the new media.
Yes.
Where some TikToker somewhere goes live and is almost coming close to actually having a show.
Yes.
With no investment in infrastructure, all he ever did, or all she ever did, was have an Android phone.
Yes.
Or, okay, well, I'm not an Apple guy, so I'll talk about Android. I failed. I love innovation, but I failed to cope with Apple. But the thing is that the Japanese have always had a saying for the last couple of decades that's called Kaizen.
Yes.
Kaizen is constant improvement. If you do not innovate, evolve, and grow, you get extinct and you become irrelevant. Now, the future of television is both exciting, challenging, and worrying at the same time.
Yes.
Institutions like UBC have a big opportunity again. You're still the national broadcaster in the country. You have the best infrastructure. I'm looking at that trailer that runs on the station when it's like a bumper.
Yes.
I just look at the infrastructure, the shape of the structures
It
alone
really has a
tells
wow
the
effect,
story.
yes.
But now, in between there's going to be some deeper strategic thinking. At the time I was at UBC with Irene Mugisha, now with the State House. I remember Eddie Khan, Sophie Matova, I don't know whether she's still here. We used to have what we called think tanks.
Yes.
I don't know whether they still exist.
Well, they do. They're
Great,
actually still in
good.
existence.
Okay, I always tell corporate bodies that it's one thing to have the think tanks,
But
and it's another to have the results from the think tanks.
Yes.
So result-oriented think tanks.
Yes.
So these think tanks always used to engage us. The trouble with think tanks of these days is that you walk into a think tank and you just want to think right in the moment. But the purpose of think tanks was that you have done some research. So when you get into a caucus to discuss the future of television or content and all that, you're basing it off research, not just thinking there and then. So what happens with, let's go back to what television is about before, as we talk about the future, by the way. In the Stone Age period, where I lived, no, I wasn't born then, we had communities gather, because television is about, now it's evolved into infotainment, where you give information, you give
entertaining.
Although, Uganda being 75% about there of youth, more youth now are more interested in entertainment than information, which is a disaster. Young people, if you're watching me right now, it is a disaster if you focus all your time and energy on just entertainment and not information. That explains why across the plethora of the broadcasting industry, over 45 to 50% of television's content is music.
Yes.
And it's, I'm sorry to say, it's sad. It tells me there's a lack of creativity in the industry. Let's look at content. In the times when we were, I was about to say when we were growing up in the Stone Age period. Let's assume we're in the Stone Age period.
Yes.
Information and entertainment. What would happen? A family would sit down together and they would tell each other fables and stories and poems, and we would recite poems. Away from the Stone Age, even when in 82, when I was born, 83, 84, 85, growing up, would tell stories. That was our television then in the house before official television would start, probably at 6 p.m. And then, of course, you'd have the normal dancing, the traditional dancing and stuff like that. Now, that was the basis of what television was about, because television now came to simplify the art of communicating to masses. Whether it was an important communication from the government, a developing program from the ministry, or whatever it was, or entertainment. Now, when you look at, it's very important for broadcasters like you to begin to study the consumer market, the markets that are consuming content. Because television is about content. If you cannot get the content right, then you're going to become extinct. So it's very important that across the board, as I close, that all stations, majorly like UBC right now, begins to look at the content, what people need to watch or listen to. But in needing, it should not just be brought in just a casual, normal way. There needs to be innovation on how it's delivered. But strongly, I believe that the future of television is still great. I love the broadcasting session UBC, and I know that where it's going, if you can have the great resource and the great support from management to invest, and my call to the government is more funding is needed for a national broadcaster like Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. It's still the pride of our nation. More funding needs to get in here. And to the advertisers and companies out there, I feel when we talk about patriotism, institutions like UBC need to be at the forefront of your support.
Well, thank you so much, Edwin, for all the insights. And I believe for those of you who are intending to join the broadcasting industry, if you're already in the broadcasting industry, this is very, very, very important information. I'll tell you one thing I've taken away from this. You need to be very dynamic, because things keep changing, evolving every now and then. And you need to catch up with the times, or else you'll be static and you'll fade out just like that. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Edwin, sharing your journey, getting back home. It was great to see you back at home here. Hopefully, you'll be back in the next 20 years. Well, it could be anytime sooner than that. Anytime. Well, that's it for this morning's Good Morning Uganda agenda. I will now leave you to the man himself, Ruben Chivirango, will be giving you the sports updates, so you don't want to miss all that. Otherwise, I want to wish you a very wonderful and very productive Tuesday morning. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you. Good morning.